All right. Yeah. Very interesting thing happened last night. When we were growing up, maybe Bensi will know this. You always had the shutters, right? The blinds, as they call it. Those were always like for me, that was the most difficult things to deal with, right? Remember? With the cord, and you had to go up, and you had to have it in an angle and a different angle to go up and to go down.
And don't rip it.
Yeah, and then most of the time they would break within like a week, and you have only like a 3 or 4 slats. Which of course a shade is very, very useful when you have 4 slats missing. That's a very good purpose. For privacy.
Have a garbage bag in my room.
A garbage bag or
whatever.
Pieces of paper inside there.
The garbage bag.
Kids, so nowadays they come out with, especially in general, because it's very pointless and very not functioning thing, and because kids never with the cords they would choke themselves, so they came out with cordless shades. So all you do is you have like this beam type of thing on the bottom. You just grab it and go down, and just go up, and there's no cords, there's nothing. It's magic. It's pashut magic. Yeah. So we got a couple of them in our salon, in our dining room. And 2-3 nights ago, we just wake up one morning and we're trying to push it up, and the thing just doesn't go up. It's just not going up, And so in the old blinds, in the old shades, what'd you do? You give it a yank. Yeah, you took out a screwdriver. You're like this. Here, there's nothing there. It's just a block and shades. There's no buttons on mine. It's just a piece. I put it in myself, so I know.
Spring loader.
There's nothing there. So I'm thinking, for like half a day, I wasn't really available. But as I would pass by, I would try the old television trick, back in the day when the television wasn't working, you give it a good knock, and it actually got better reception. So I tried the television trick, give it a good zet. Nothing was going on. So eventually, I just
Googled it.
I Googled it even, but it wasn't coming up. It wasn't easy to deal with because there's 8,000 types of blinds. Everything was complicated.
Love Laura.
You have to be. I went down last night.
No,
I didn't call the blind guy. I was late. I was sitting there. I was like, wait a minute. Here's a piece. And I had my 12-year-old there, and I said, here's a piece, and I can't fix it because there's nothing to fix. There's nothing here. I have no screwdrivers, nothing to. It can't be. There has to be some mechanism that I can fix. So I said to her, what are we going to do? So we said, wait a minute. There's little pieces on the side. So I popped off these little side pieces. And now, all of a sudden, we took a flash so we could see inside that there's a mechanism there and there's a mechanism there. I had another one right next to it that was actually functioning. So I popped it off there and I said, okay. And then I said to her, wait 1 second. You have to be able to access these pieces. You can't just have a piece and what am I supposed to use, a snake to get in there? All of a sudden, I pushed another button, another thing, and all of a sudden, this whole panel comes floating out, and now the whole thing is clear. Now you see it. And now you see that there's a whole pulley system with things, with a spring going this, and every time you push it up and down, the thing goes across and draws the string into itself and goes back and forth. It was amazing. I was pretty impressed with the engineering. Not that I'm an engineer. You impressed me with very little. But it's still a pretty cool thing how it works. You go up and down, and it moves and everything. And I saw how I had the other
Did you actually
one.
fix it? No.
In the end, I saw the other one that worked. And I saw what had to be done. I saw something, and I clipped, davened a little bit, and boom. It worked.
Usually this story doesn't end like that.
It doesn't end like that.
No.
It was then
You
it
saved $19.95 for the new special. I mean, actually saved a lot because the new one wouldn't match. You had to change that one too, and the next one.
Again, install. It's going to be $100.
Yeah.
Our kids are. In the end of the day, it worked. But that was, as Betsy says, for sure from the prayers that I davened, because it shouldn't have by teva it shouldn't have worked. But it was awesome. But
unless your wife wanted new ones.
Right. Then anyways you have to get
that's why the old one worked.
Yeah. the truth is that it got me thinking an amazing thing. We see this from all the time from our hopefully from this year. That the Torah in of itself is satum. We come to the Torah, we come to these parshas, especially parshas Vayakheil Pikudei. It doesn't get any more. Once you start hitting like the Mishkan and the Kalim and the numbers, and so you went through Trumat Tzav, all these parshas, and you're like, okay, there was 2.5 amos, and there was 48 krasim, and there was 16, and each one was 6 amos. So fine, you pound through it. You even have a few allusions, and you come to Vayakheil Pikudei. It's a repeat of the same stuff that was already not so interesting and not so filled with, story-like meanings. So it's pretty amazing to try to even get anything out of it. But the truth is that you got to pop open the sides, slip out the panel, and you got to start looking inside, and you see that there's awesome things. Just in general, The fact that the parsha mentions the same stuff that was mentioned again rings a bell. The Orach Chaim speaks about this a little bit, and it says in the parshas that we went through with Eliezer, Eved Avram. So we are over there. Avram Avinu told Eliezer, "Listen, go," and he has a whole Megillah, whole spiel, and then Eliezer goes and he repeats the whole spiel by the well, and then he meets it, and it repeats the stories again and again and entire. And Rashi over there says that I understand, right? We learn Gemara, you'll learn 4 daf based on a vav. Does it have the vav or does it not have the vav? What is the vav teaching you? And they go back and forth to teach you a huge lesson in Hilchas Hashavas Aveda or whatever. And here's the stories again and again and again. So Rashi already there says to show you the chiba that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has. Hashem loves hearing even the stories of the Avos HaKadoshim more than Tilei Tilim of Halachos that are learned out from one letter. Over here, the Orach Chaim says also, we see that the Mishkan was such an important thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves it so much that he says all the details, and obviously every detail holds tremendous meaning. Every amon, every single prat of what the things were made out of, right? They were made out of this, they were made out of techeles, agaman, sheish, shani, whatever. But from this, we see that also the Mishkan in itself and its fabrication with all the kalim and everything is so precious in the eyes of Hashem that not only does He give you all the exact measurements, He repeats it and repeats it and repeats it so many times in everything. Even in the beginning of the 6th parsha, it says Ace, S, right? Unless you're a real echtige Baal Kair, you're going to get that, the Aliyah, the first Aliyah of the 6th parsha, right? You ever heard the Baal Kair get that right? 100%? I used to love it when they did that. Ace and S, V-Ace, V-S, V-Ace, V-S. Each one is b'diuk. Most guys like S. They just do as Caleb, as Menorah, as Nir, as Sev, as Makachel. They just do the S.
It's not Ma'akev, is it? It's not Ma'akev. Do you not have to correct?
Probably not Ma'akev. S and Ace, I don't know if there's a big difference. But Lamaisa, the Nakuda is that the Torah is repeating it again and again and again because there's a tremendous chiba, tremendous love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for the Mishkan, for the Makom. So if you zoom out a little bit, like you close the door, maybe you could close the door now. Yeah, that one, this one, whatever. So the chiba that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has, then we see by the Avos, and the chiba that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has also comes out now. Avos are people.
You heard that, right?
It's Shapsi.
Uh-huh.
It's probably Shapsi here. Simply close the door before Shapsi comes in. Shapsi's the local cat, and although we love him, but
Heschel feeds him every day.
we don't. Yeah,
You never saw him?
we don't necessarily need him in here for now.
He just showed up over there one day and never left.
I was in OJ. They used to have the cats and the dogs used to come and sit by my feet when I gave shir, because the doors were open and stuff. I was like, I don't know. The guys there love those dogs and stuff.
Rabid.
Kitzer, yeah, I wouldn't touch him, but last time I touched the dog, I got a rash for like 4 weeks. That was the last time I touched the dog around 10 years ago. Maybe I touched one. I don't remember that much because it wasn't fun. But not that there's anything wrong with that. You could touch dogs, you could play with dogs if you like them, and if they're properly immunized, something like that. Immunized, maybe. Anyways, the shots. So we have the chibah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows towards people, which is the avos, towards a place, which is the Mishkan, and even in this week's parsha and many other parshas about now, towards time, which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is infinite. Hashem is everywhere, right? You know the song, Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is truly everywhere, right? There's such a song. Hashem is infinite. Hashem is everywhere. But there's tzimtzumim, it's true that the world lives in here, and in these tzimtzumim, in this world that we live in, where we don't necessarily feel and see HaKadosh Baruch Hu everywhere, but we have to know that there are places and people and times that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, hey, focus, come close to these times, use these times, come close to these people, come close to these places. Eretz Yisrael, they say Mikdash, time, we have Shabbos in the beginning of this week's parsha, and again, if you see in the Torah, it says Shabbos around 30 times. I'm not one of these guys that can tell you exactly how many times, but it says it over and over. Everything is about Shabbos, and the festivals, the And Chagim are also mentioned many, many times in many different ways. And you'd think, okay, you know, say the Chagim, why do you have to repeat it again and again and again? Why? Because these are the things, these are the places, these are the times, and these are the people of us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves. And Hashem wants us to have that knowledge that these are the things to focus on very much. So in focusing on one of them, in the Tzaddikim, I had a vort from the Megillah. So we're still holding in between Purim and Pesach. Purim and Pesach. And no, it's okay. Purim and Pesach, and question on the Megillah. We know that in the beginning of the Megillah, there's a whole Suda, and then the Megillah fast forwards a bunch of years to when Haman is, becomes the prime minister.
12 years.
12 years, and then there's a Gzeira against the Jews. Mordechai's not bowing. A Gzeira against the Jews, wipe him out. So it's an amazing story, right? And it ends up good, Baruch Hashem. But why did the Gzeira happen? Why did the Gzeira happen? Why not Kadosh Baruch Hu? And if you learn the Gemara, it was signed and sealed up in Shemaim. It wasn't just like, some anti-Semitin. He's going and trying to kill the Jews. No, it was Hashem signed it. Why? So the Gemara says, because they were Nena Misudas Sachashveros, Nena Misudas Rasha. Now, you go through history. Sad things have happened and bad things have happened, and people have done bad things in the annals of Jewish history. Maybe even Chas V'Shalom people are involved in bad things now. But why a Gezerah? Wipe out every single Jew because they went to a party? Imagine, they go to President Trump's party, and they go and they have a good time. To wipe out the Jews? I mean, I've heard of worse things in the world than going to a party with Russia. And obviously we know that it was glatt kosher food. It was, everything was kosher. The wine was, it wasn't Nesach, it was mamish, they had probably covered in towels with Jewish waiters. I don't know what they did, but everything was kosher v'yosher. So why did they get punished so much? So there's another Gemara that says that in the end of the day, when they went to the Suda, they were nichshal. There were zonas, there were, harlots there, and in the end they got a little inebriated, and what happened.
So, Vegas stays in Facebook.
What?
What happens in Vegas stays in Facebook.
What happened in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Stays in Facebook.
Oh, stays in Facebook. So the point is that they were nechshal, but even that, the question still remains. I mean, okay, so people fell into these things. It never happened before or after in the history of the Jewish people. So why is it that the Megillah created that story created such a intense Gezerah? And another question is, why did the Gezerah come out 12 years later? If the Gezerah was then, so let there be a Gezerah. Okay, you could say we don't understand the ways of Hashem. Sometimes Gezerahs are in Shemayim. They're trying to be mamtik and stuff. But I think, as a Jew, a question answers the question. You always answer a question with a question. Why? Why not? How old are you? How old are you? So both questions really answer each other. Why? Because what happened when they went to the Suda? There was one Yid named Mordechai that said, don't go. And all these other Yidden, they said, Mordechai, I hear what you're saying. But logically, it makes no sense. It's all going to be kosher. Nothing's going to happen. And politically, if the Jews decide, no, we're not going to your party of the century, that you're making the most incredible party, it's going to kill us. It's going to wipe us out, pogroms, taxes, who knows what. I hear what you're saying. It's not the best thing, but come on, Mordechai. Be practical, be logical. Mordechai Tzaddik said, don't go to the Suda. What happened? They went. They did not listen. So that's bad? Yeah. But what happened after that? They didn't listen, and they fell. They fell into the worst sins that there is. But did they learn their lesson? That's the question, right? It says that if you see a tzaddik sinning in the morning, you could assume that he already did tshuva. So let's say they were doing tshuva. But even if they did tshuva from the sin, did they learn their lesson? That we had to wait. History would unfold, and the time would go to the future. A new thing came up. Haman's wearing a nice big idol around his neck. He's making himself like a god. He walks around, everyone's got to bow down, bow down, bow down, bow down. So they said, are we going to bow down? What do we do? If we don't bow down, he's the second most powerful person in the whole Persian Empire, 127 Medinas. He's going to wipe us out. He's going to tax us, who knows what. We got to wipe down. Mordechai, what should we do? Don't bow to them. Don't bow down to them. Did they listen? Again, they didn't listen. That's when the Gezerah came about. Because the Nekuda was that when you come to a tzaddik, when you come to someone that you're trusting for your advice and trusting for the word of God, you listen. Amalek is Suffolk, right? Suffolk, we can get rid of a lot of ways, like we spoke about by Purim time. Ad lo yada. But one of the ways is, if the tzaddik says to do something, you listen. You don't need to have your logic. You don't need to have your sveikas, your bilbulim. Sveikas come from your own logic. The tzaddik says to do something, Mordechai says, don't bow down, we don't bow down. They didn't listen, and the whole gzer came about. And in the end, the whole thing was that they were totally mevatal and batal and mevutal to Mordechai tzaddik. In the end, they were saved only through Mordechai tzaddik. And the interesting thing, just to note, in and of itself also, is that the whole change of the Megillah came about through that Mordechai not bowing. Why? Because after 3 days, after 3 days, Esther asked for a Suda, and nothing happened at the Suda. Why? Reb Biderman says this. He says because it says Haman came out of the Suda, the Simcha v'Tufleva. You can't mess with someone, even spiritually, when he's joyous. Haman was joyous then. She realized the Yeshua was not ready to come. If the rush is still joyous, therefore she didn't do anything.
So you just gotta be happy your whole life.
Bought time.
No trouble can come to you.
No trouble. He said, but you know, it's like the Shemona Esrei thing. You know, it says that if you have to have kavanah in the first bracha, but the only way to have kavanah in the first bracha is if you don't have any chet. If you don't have any chet, then the only way to have the kavanah is when you don't have any chet. And if you have kavanah, then you're moichling all your chatoim. But like it's basically one of these cycles where it's like almost impossible to do it. So you try your hardest. Try your hardest to be b'simcha all your life, and yeah, it'll definitely bring bracha and good things to your whole life. But she saw she couldn't stop. She couldn't mess with Haman then. So she bought more time. She said, I want another Suda tomorrow. He walks out. He is bursting with joy. Who does the king love? Who does the queen love? Me, 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 me. And he walks out. Boom! Mordechai Tzaddik is standing there in his face, and he comes home in a rage, and he starts listing his properties and his money and his kids and everything, and nothing's worth it because of that, Mordechai. He was in a rage. Right then, Nashnas HaMelech, he's making a big tree to hang Mordechai, and boom, he gets hung on it. The whole thing changes from that second. Anyways, that's the Nekuda of person, right? Place, again, we have the Beis HaMikdash, the Mishkan, Eretz Yisrael. These are the places where HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, V'shachanti v'soichem, I dwell within the Mishkan, I dwell within the people that are connected to the Mishkan. Nowadays is the Batei Knesset, the Batei Midrashos. You have Mamish Sfarim HaKadoshim all over the place, Baruch Hashem, and we have the places Mamish of Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael and the like. But so that's the place, and the people are the tzaddikim, and the times are like Shabbos. There was an interesting story about Shabbos that I just read. It has to do with a little bit with Benzi. Benzi said that he posts every week the Shabbos Manim.
I'm getting from somebody. Somebody's giving it to me. I forward it.
You forward it, and basically Benzi said that some random non-Jew gets it. He texted him and he said, thank you very much for the thing. I'm not Jewish, but my wife is Jewish, and now she knows when to light candles. So it's a gewaldige thing to know when to light candles. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what level of religion. That's a true story. So
a GE rep from a company.
There was a Yid that a bunch of years ago decided it would be a tremendous thing if he put the candle lighting time Friday in the New York Times. Front page of the New York Times, inside front page, wherever it was, a little line, 2 lines, 3 lines. Tonight's candle. So he found a very wealthy donor, and this guy said he's going to sponsor it, he's going to bankroll it. $2,000 a week. Just it was 2 or 3 lines, $2,000. The guy paid every week for 5 years. A lot of money. Well, obviously a wealthy guy, but he said it was, you're dealing with probably, I don't know how many people, subscribers are of New York Times, but a lot of Jews.
Those days, not today.
Right, whatever. Yeah, in those days, before the internet. There was a lot of people reading the New York Times. So who knows how many people were able to light candles on time because of that.
I mean, the newspaper should have put in just to get more customers, but whatever.
Yeah. Sure. Only problem is they're hidden that are running. That's the problem. So they ran it for 5 years. And at the end of 5 years, in 1999, in June, the guy didn't want to. He lost a lot of money, whatever, Nebuch, and he couldn't bankroll it anymore. It was too much for him. Gandik. He finished it. He stopped it. Y2K, January 1st, 2000. The New York Times ran 3 front page articles. They ran 3 simultaneous front pages. Why? It was a cute thing. They decided it's a new millennium. It's like, it doesn't happen only every 1,000 years. So they decided they're going to put January 1st, 1900. January 1st, 2000, and January 1st, 2100. 3 separate front pages. 1900 they had. 2,000 they printed that day, and 2,100 they're going to make up.
They creative.
How is it going to be? The robots, should they be allowed to vote? Do they really have a thing? They had a whole article about the robots. Should they vote? Should they not? Lamaisa, they're not people, but they have intelligence. How much soul? They went through a whole thing with the robots.
Human life being.
Imagine
100 years from now.
Okay.
And sure enough, this guy that sponsored this whole thing and thought of the whole thing sees Friday night Jewish candle lighting, 6:26 p.m. So he's amazed. Like, where did that come from?
I spent $2,000 every year. How come?
Yeah. So he calls up the New York Times and he speaks to the guy that does this stuff for him. They used to do it for a few months ago, but he said he hasn't done it in a few months. He goes, "What's going on? What's epis?" So the guy says, "Listen, we're thinking about 100 years from now. How many things can we come up with that are for sure going to be there? The one thing that's for sure going to be there are going to be Jews that are going to be lighting candles." So we decided, we realized that, for 5 years we were conscious of it. That's one thing that for sure is going to be still in 100 years. So they put it in. You see the godless of even New York Times recognizing that there's going to be something in 100 years from now with the robots flying around and the flying cars and everything. There's going to be Jewish ladies lighting the Shabbos candles Friday night, and they're going to need to know what time it is. You see the godless of
Tradition.
To tie it all in to something in the Beis HaMikdash, which was also an amazing thing, is the Kiyar, right? The Marais Tzova is a famous Rashi in this week's parsha, and it's a little. The article brings it out, but definitely clothes it in nicer terms. But the Rashi says it in true terms. Rashi says they brought their mirrors. The women brought the mirrors to make the kiyar, which was made out of copper, and they had copper mirrors. They brought it to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, "Here's our mirrors." He said, "I don't want these mirrors. You sit there patching with yourself to make yourself look more beautiful. I don't want such things." So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, "These are more chavev than the rest. All the rest of the stuff that the Yidden are bringing with the Nidivas Lev, with the Lev Shalom, these are more chashiv." Why? The Klal Yisrael exists because of that. Because they would come home, the men would come home really tired, and from the Shibud Mitzrayim, and the women would take their mirrors, and they would give them to eat a little bit. Note for the women, they would give them to eat first.
Feed the husband.
Yeah, Jacobson always says that. Just feed us. We're simple. We're men. Just give us to eat. Don't need complications. Don't need therapy. Don't need to talk. Just give them to eat. So they gave them to eat a little bit. I don't know what food they had there. Maybe a little fish, a little herring, a little schnapps, and some Coca-Cola, some bai juice, carrot juice maybe.
Jesus came after.
Yeah, Santa Claus. Santa wasn't around yet, so they didn't have Coke. But they gave them a little to eat, and then they used the mirrors to entice their husbands to have more children, and basically the whole Klal Yisrael, these are chavav. Ad kedei kach that there's no size given to the kiyar. All of the kelim in the Beis HaMikdash have the exact size to the inch. Kiyar, no size. How big was it? Why? Because every single mirror had to be used. One of the Mefarshim say this. And therefore, if Klal Yisrael, if the women came with 8,000 mirrors, the kiyar would have to be 30 feet tall. Because every kiyar had to be used. That's how chashuv it was. The kiyar had no size.
What does that mean? It was made out of mirrors.
It was melted copper. The mirrors, the mirror,
black plated.
There was no glass. It was just a piece of copper.
Silver, right?
Okay, it was just a shiny piece of copper. Right, exactly.
Reflection of themselves.
The shiny piece of copper.
How beautiful can you make this little reflection?
Yeah. It's like the airbrushed, the airbrushed pictures are, they look pretty good. It's like murky and everything.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think it's an old movie, you know what I mean?
Wow. The thing is that the kiyar was amazing. Was that what do we see from that? That the spiritual worlds are not when you fly through the Shemayim and nothing's going on. Hashem said, "Chaviv al kulam" are these things that were used for the physical world, but to inject intense spirituality in the physical. That is what Yidden are about. We're here to do that, to illustrate it with a story of Reb Nosson Tzvi Finkel, which is a really powerful story. I never heard this before, but I saw it today. Reb Nosson Tzvi, when he was, he grew up in Chicago. He grew up, a modern American boy. Became the Rosh Hashiva of Mir. Became one of the Gedolei Hadar, and he always was with his balanced. He was in all worlds. You're talking about, a lot of times people make him seem like he was just like a nice, sweet, American Yid. My wife is a Finkel, so she knows, like, she grew up, and she didn't grow up with them, but she spent a lot of time with them. She said that the Rebbetzin told her that when he came, when they first got married, he was like helping out at home and everything. She said, I don't need you helping out at home. I need you to become a Gadol Adar. Okay, she was the Rosh Hashiva's daughter, obviously, but she said, 18 hours, you don't come home. He would spend 18 hours every day in the Beis Medrash, just learning. Maybe he put down his head, maybe he ate a little bit, just learning. 18 hours a day. This went on for years. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about Adam Gadol, a person that became an Adam Gadol. Yeah, my wife also tells me not to call him 18. The story goes like this: that they had a hesped for him, and this Rav Grunwald was saying over a story, and he said over a story that one of Rav Nosson Tzvi's Talmidim, very, very close Talmud, passed away. And Nosson Tzvi felt terrible for the family in New York. He obviously lived in Yerushalayim, and so he said that whenever he had 4 sons. Whenever these 4 sons, they write to me, they call me, I'm going to be like their father figure. And he kept his word. He was always mamish writing and taking care of them. Mamish, they would write to him, they would call him, they would do all these things for him to try to be connected with him. Kitzer, when they came to Eretz Yisrael later on, this is what Rav Grunwald was saying, they came to Eretz Yisrael to learn, so he mamish took care of them. They would be always in his house by Shabbos and everything, and he set them up in proper yeshivas. He didn't just, set them up in his yeshiva. Oh, now that you're here, you'll come to the mirror. I'll find you a good shir. No, he set them up each in their yeshiva that they needed in itself was a great thing. And they were mamash always there, and he took care of them until today. This is what Rav Grunwald says over at the Hesped. A guy comes over to him afterwards, and he says, that's only half the story. He says there was a little girl that was also an orphan, the same family. No one really knows about her because she was very little. She was a girl. He said that this little girl felt a little sad. She saw all her brothers always getting phone calls and letters back and forth from Reb Nosson Tzvi Finkel, the Rosh Hashiva of Mir. And she doesn't even know how to write practically. She doesn't know how to communicate, and she's intimidated. She just didn't have any connection really to Reb Nosson Tzvi Finkel, and she felt chaser. She felt lacking. One day, all of a sudden, a letter comes from Yerushalayim addressed to her, to the 8-year-old. She opens it up, and she sees a handwritten letter. It has a big picture of a heart drawn from Reb Nosson Tzvi Finkel, with a loving personal note from him saying how much he's thinking and he cares about her. And
he know that she had that feeling.
He made a letter with a big heart.
Typical for little kids.
Him. No, but how did he know?
How did he know? I don't even know. She said she started bursting into tears of joy and thankfulness, and she said that since her father passed away, she had never felt any presence of a father until that moment. When she saw that, she mamish felt like she had a father again. And in of itself, it's an amazing story, but I mean, that's a person, and again, the Rosh Hashiva was someone that was in the upper realms. I mean, he was a Yid that was super holy and super high. I mean, and yet he was always like that. When we went to always him for Purim, so we were there and we used to have mincha in his room there, me and 30 other people that were there at that moment. And so one year I was there with my little kids, 2 little mamish, 3-year-old and a 2-year-old probably, and they were sitting there playing around and probably making too much noise than most people were used to in the mincha. And setz dich up, Machaim, ich esse ein bisschen, trink ein bisschen. And so they were sitting there. They were sitting there making noise, and sure enough, the Rosh Hashiva is sitting there at his Reb Nosson Tzvi sitting there at his seat, and everyone's looking. And if you remember Reb Nosson Tzvi, he was always like shaking. He had terrible Parkinson's disease, and then he sees them, so he goes right away. And you're talking about I think it was by Sim Shalom, like Emilov Chazar shots. Everyone's like, he grabs 2 candies and he goes. He calls them over. He gives them 2 candies. And he's Rosh Hashiva, everyone's looking. He had enough presence of mind and enough of a balance to do that. So again, we got to be mamish
Balance.
In all places at all time. We got to be balanced in every way. And the truth is, though, that this world doesn't allow us to really do this, because many times the world, the layers of this world, the plaster that we plaster around us, and that is the world, just doesn't allow us to see that the physical world is really spiritual, and doesn't allow us, when we're involved in the physical, to feel the spirituality, and when we're involved in the spiritual, to think that there's really a physical world. So, I don't know if you've ever seen this is what happened to me before Purim. If you've ever seen a burn victim, there are movies about it, you could watch it and stuff. But the other day I was in somewhere and I saw someone like that. I don't know exactly who it was, but I could probably guess. But it was...
But you have to go identify body, or?
No, like a living burn victim that doesn't have a face anymore. It's just
They took grafts
charred skin, yeah.
They took grafts from all over the body and made a face?
Yeah, something like that. It doesn't move, it doesn't have features, it's just basically looking at two eyes and a mouth and a nose.
Okay.
It's pretty frightening. And I saw this person going around in the supermarket and I was like, wow. You know, wearing like almost a cloak, but like you could see. And it's like, wow, people would look at her and say, so scary, so this and so that. But who is she inside? What's inside of her? Pure, beautiful person. No different than you, no different than me. Probably 1,000 times stronger and more amazing if she's still walking around, living life at all with such a hardship. And I was thinking, why? Why do we care? Our whole world that we live in is skin deep. Skin. How do you look? How do you look? How does this look? How does that look? Everything is skin deep. What's underneath the skin? There's a person, there's a heart, there's a thoughts, there's a world underneath the skin. And it's an incredible thing. And Purim, what do? We wear masks. Right? On Purim, she doesn't have to wear a mask. Because she's real the whole year. Purim, we wear masks to cover our skin and say, stop being so skin deep. Stop looking at the mask. Go under and take away the mask. Meaning we have to put on a mask to do that. Put on a mask and say, there's nothing. There's something inside of us. V'nahafachu, right? It says that the next world is olam hafach. It's an upside down world. Everyone that was here is here, and everyone's there. So the question is, why is that a good thing, right? If our world is right side up, yeah, you have the bottle of beer and it's right side up. So the next world is upside down. That's not good. Everything's going to spill out. It's going to be upside down. The answer is, our world is the olam hafach. Our world is upside down. Everything's skin deep. Everything's looking at it like that. The next world, when you turn it around. The next world, when you turn it around, it rights itself. It's actually the right way. This world, we all wear masks and we all work on the level of masks. Oh, this is what we're hearing. This is what's going on. In the next world, we actually turn it right side up, and then we see it for what it is. As to make an avoida, alt the shir in Breslov usually ends off with some sort of avoida. If so, obviously Purim we experience this with an hafachu, this opposite, the turning upside down very much. But every day, maybe in Shemona Esrei, maybe take 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 10 seconds. Close your eyes, Shemona Esrei, in the car, whatever. You really have to close your eyes for this one, though. You close your eyes and think about what it would be like to be like that. To be like that. To be someone that can't walk around with all of the externals that I'm showing off who I am, what I am, blah, blah, blah. Imagine you had nothing. Just nothingness, just everything that's inside from the face. Inside from all of the externals. Just a heart and a body and a heart and a soul and a mind connecting. Hashem should help us that through that we should be zeichet to connect with simcha, like we said, and truthfully live. Shkoyach, simcha for coming and sticking around. Shkoyach, everyone.